Breaking news for you this hour. Fresh protests over the police killing of a black teenager. This in the U.S. town of Ferguson. It's all been met with a heavy response from security forces who have again used tear gas. Reports also coming in that several journalists have been arrested. In the meantime, a curfew's been extended into a second night following a week of demonstrations against the police crackdown on these mostly peaceful protests. Well, let's cross over there live right now to RT's Anastasia Churkina, who's going to bring us up to date here. And it's 11 p.m. where you are. Good evening to you. Violence back on the streets again. Can you take us through what's happened?
Well, Rory, up until now, it would have been hard to imagine a moment where we would have to report in helmets from the streets of Missouri. But unfortunately, the scene here is becoming extremely resembling to a war zone. Just an hour before another night of a curfew is about to begin here in the streets of Ferguson, mayhem and chaos yet again have been breaking loose, where police have been firing much more tear gas than in the previous nights. Sound cannons were used, LRADs. We know that at least one protester was injured. Journalists were arrested and then released. Certainly lots of mayhem. Tear gas was used when some families were still out with children out on the streets. People are questioning why this violence is taking place an hour before the mayhem. If you can see behind me, there's police in heavy military gear, and certainly they have not been hesitating to get quite violent with the protest. Of course, all of this comes after the killing of 18-year-old unarmed Michael Brown by a police officer. Now, it has to be said, just about an hour before right now, we were standing on a street corner between protesters and police were issuing threats to journalists saying, get out of the way, you're in the middle of a crossfire and we will shoot if you don't move. So certainly the situation is quite hectic. Several nights in a row, including today, journalists have been tear gassed and, just extreme mayhem unraveling on the streets. It remains unclear why this continues to be the approach of law enforcement here on the ground, where really all the protesters and locals in Ferguson, Missouri are demanding is justice and accountability in the killing of Michael Brown.
All right, RT's Anastasia Churkina there, Ferguson, Missouri. Thanks for that. Now, the people of Ferguson not backing down, apparently, despite law enforcement officers being armed to the teeth. Well, Dr. Mark Mason, an activist from the Occupy movement, he believes that militarization of the police is a very large danger.
What we have now on the streets, these are not police. These are paramilitary troops. You go to Central America and you're going to find the same thing. I cannot overemphasize that I am old enough to see a very, very frightening transition in the United States, where the militarization of the police is a movement by the owners of this country. Last year alone, in 2013, 1 year, the U.S. Pentagon donated more than $400 million, almost $500 million of military-grade equipment to police departments in the United States. That's 1 year alone, almost $500 million of material. They are not trained to use this material. They don't know what they're doing with it, and we should not have paramilitary troops not on the streets of Ferguson and not in the streets of Central America either. This is clear, violent state suppression of dissent.